I am unmuted, I think. Yay. Hi,
I
everyone.
am unmuted as well. It's working well. So super happy to be here. Hey.
Well, thank you, Mike. And Mariana, you are the important person in the room, so I'm glad you're unmuted. It's great to see you again.
Very nice. Really am excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for for hosting this great conversation. I'm looking forward to talking with you and all the audience.
I know. I do have to say that you and I had a little prep call in advance, and thank goodness, because I am not even right brain, left brain. I don't know which it is, but we're going to count on you as the tech expert. So with that, I'm going to take a quick sip as I choke myself up. I'm so excited to see you. Sorry about that. I swear it's not COVID. Anyway, I wanted to give a little quick explanation of where you work, but I want to acknowledge the fact, wow, I really am choked up. I want to acknowledge the fact that you are one of our more tech-oriented CMOs here today. I'm going to stop talking for a second and put myself on mute as I clear my voice and ask you, though, to explain in its simplest path what Peopleai really is and what's the value proposition that you're marketing.
Perfect. I'm going to let you have your water. Please make sure that you're okay. And yes, very excited to be talking about Peopleai. As a little bit of a background for everybody, I joined as a CMO a few months ago, but I actually bought from Peopleai in 2019. So I've been a customer for the last 3 years before joining them, which is really, really exciting. So Peopleai, the brand, just look at it, People.ai. Our why, it's all about people, artificial intelligence. How do we really help people to perform better so that companies can achieve better results? If you think about it, in the sports world, every sports professional has so much data to really help them to optimize and maximize their performance. And why is it that in the business side, we don't do that? From a GTM perspective, sales professionals more than anything, we really help, sales organizations, sales professional to really, really optimize their productivity by learning through artificial intelligence. What is that ideal path? We help people to really maximize their interactions with customers so that they can really, increase the deal size, increase the volume of deals, accelerate time to closure, so that we can really support delivering growth. So that's pretty much what Peopleai does. That combination of people and artificial intelligence.
Well, I think that frames everything up that I want to talk about today, that balance of human and tech, the magic and the math, as we say. And so that's why before, when I was choking, I really wanted to frame up our conversation as delivering a lot of that kind of information. But let's start with the human part. Let's start with you. There was an interview that you did in Hispanic Executive, and it opens by you saying, I'm going to quote this, "I've always really liked to do different, bold, unique things since I was of a very young age." So I'm going to ask you, like what, including the fact that I know that you went from Mexico to Japan.
Yes,
tell us.
I know that's a whole history on its own, right? So I'm born in Mexico City, but when I was 7 years old, I asked my parents to send me to a Japanese school. So now I'm in Mexico City, growing up in a Japanese school. By the time that I finished high school, all what I wanted to do was to live in Japan. I love writing Japanese, talking about the left and the right of the brain. I love with a passion Japanese characters. So I moved to live, in Japan. So that's kind of when I started to be empowered to do different things. By the time that you're born in Mexico and you grew up in a Japanese place, and then you move to Japan, and then you start doing technology, it's all that I think empowered me at a very young age to really feel like I didn't have to really be following the norm, that I was empowered, that I had the right, the permission just to be, be whoever I wanted. And part of that, it was, I moved to Japan. Then I did some investment banking, and then I moved into the technology space. And then I went to start leveraging technology to deliver growth. So it's always been about what is it that makes sense? Rather than thinking about what is it that I should be doing because everybody's doing it, it's a little bit more of what is it that makes sense? A little bit to that, the first question that you asked me, really, what is that input that has a process that delivers an output? If you can digest that portion and you have the passion, the tenacity, you can do big things. And I'm a big believer that almost like a go big or go home. So that's a little bit where that phrase came from on that. In a very good article. I actually enjoyed the person that wrote it did a really good job.
They did. I highly recommend it. And I personally will tweet out a link to that Hispanic executive article as well. Now, that last role, you were at PTC, I believe, when you got back from Japan and you had been an economist and you moved into technology. It's fascinating. You actually won an award, a Forrester Award, by leveraging a Peopleai tactic or platform. And then you came to People.ai. So that, boy, you're really authentically there.
Yes, and I think that I was listening to some of the other speakers in the previous session where they were saying that, you really need to follow your passion. You really need to be authentic to yourself. So at PTC, I had a challenge, as most of the marketeers. By now, what is it? 70% of the buyer's journey is online. I was leading, the digital experience of PTC. We needed to deliver more growth. So I couldn't quite just continue doing the same things. So I really I tried to solve for, rather than casting the net too wide, rather than doing marketing activities and sales activities without having intelligence, rather than asking customers and prospects to fill in a form so that I will call them tomorrow, which sounded like by now really old school. So I'm like, okay, we need to modernize that. And it wasn't going to be about working harder, but really working smarter. And if you think about it, it's the digital transformation of the world, which is, and I know sometimes that word gets, gets thrown around so much that it loses a little bit of its power, but it is leveraging technology to solve business problems. So I had a problem. I needed to leverage technology. And that's when, I went to build the next generation revenue engine, the pipeline printing machine that, leveraged, Peopleai technology. So that was, I bought in 2019. We won together, Forrester, program of the year in 2020. And then it was like at some point, you just believe too much on what the company is doing, on the why, the what. You start getting to know the executives, you trust what they're doing. And that's how I decided to come and join them. I really think that is the future of the world.
Well, I have a feeling that they are very happy that you are bringing all of those skills and insights to People.ai. So what I'd love to do is now take it a little bit more general. We've talked about what People.ai is. We've talked about your path to it and why you joined it. You're in a new role. You've been there how long now?
It's by now about 3 months.
3 months. Okay, so you're in that first 90 days, as the book is so well titled. What kind of priorities did you set for yourself for that kind of new role? And then I'm also going to ask you, how you had to adapt, or what other new to the role marketers might think about.
It is a very interesting question, because you're starting to talk about, the modern definition of the role of the CMO.
Yeah.
And a lot has changed. I'm actually in
Yep.
the process of writing an article for Forbes magazine on the topic, because the role has changed a lot. And it is a complicated role, because if you think about it, CMOs are responsible for so many disciplines. We represent the customer.
Yep.
We have to be spending, plenty of time, because we have, brand, we have communications, social media, analyst relations, really hugely important in the B2B technology space. You then have product marketing, you have your positioning, you have messaging, then you have demand generation. You also have your digital experience, your website. There's so many things that it really becomes about that prioritization. And going back to my initial comment, now that close to 70% of the buyer journey is online, one of the main responsibilities is to really deliver quality pipeline like by yesterday, which is complicated on its own right. But I think that we're going to continue seeing that shift towards marketing having to be much more accountable for pipeline revenue as the world continues becoming more digital, more hybrid. So for that, definitely the priority number one is been really getting that customer-centric demand generation pipeline printing machine that is going to be fueling the growth that is so important at a company like People.ai that is going through hyper growth.
I know that you not only represent the voice of the customer, you've mentioned the voice of the product and the voice of the industry. So how do you balance that B2B kind of messaging with B2C kind of messaging in marketing a business brand?
It's I think it's almost taking a new approach to, at some point, B2B was thought as we sell into buildings. Therefore, we can continue using a fax machine. It's companies, it's big buildings. I think that was kind of the sentiment, versus the way that by now it's evolving, the way that I see it, it's really that almost B2H. It's business to human.
Human. Oh, yeah. Makes sense.
If you think about it, we do sell into very large enterprises, but that said, it's not the enterprise that you're going to be engaging with. You are selling into the enterprise that is going to be signing the contract, but you're really helping an individual to really excel again at their job. You're really helping them to find a solution to a problem. You're really helping them to maximize the potential of a new new opportunity. And in order to be able to help people, you really need to think and be customer-centric, customer first. Even in the B2B space, it really means to write content that delivers that human connection. You are writing, you are creating campaigns that are really going to be touching the heart of another human. That's why the way that I see it, that as much as we talk about B2B, and yes, B2B has a complexity that you're going to have to touch many, many people before you can get the order. But at the end of the day, you are really looking to help that person to be human, to be emotionally connecting, to be customer-centric, and to start really thinking about an experience that at the end of the day, all these people that I need to influence, they do spend, a lot of time with Netflix.com and Amazon.com. So the expectations, and again, that makes the role of the CMO for B2B company a little bit more challenging. The expectations are the same ones that a B2C company has. There is nothing that allows my, my personas, my target to say, okay, now that I'm going to be talking to Mariana, now a fax machine, it's okay. Now everything old school, it's okay.
Right.
No.
That's fun. And I appreciate that. And it's interesting because I'm going to shill for my company a little bit. I think a large part of what Brand Innovators does is to humanize the executive. It is to give you the opportunity to share content that's thoughtful, that frames up exactly what your company does in real words. So yeah, we're very meta here right now.
That is super, super cool. But I think that you're hitting in a very, very important point. And again, that's why it's so critical that as a CMO, you spend a lot of time with your customers. Again, I'm very lucky that because I was a customer, I am more like a customer facing type of a CMO. So I take so many calls during the week from customers, from prospects, really understanding that human component. So that, because at the end of the day, what I'm looking to do, what Peopleai is looking to do, it really helps those individuals to perform better so that they can get promoted, they can deliver company growth. It really becomes that ecosystem of helping each other, which I think it's important in this day and age.
Yeah, and I want to go back to something that you sort of dropped in there before, and that was also in your Hispanic executive profile, that you said these days close to 70% of a buyer's journey is done in the digital space. So marketing has to deliver much more than before, so you have to work smarter, which of course dovetails into the rationale for what People.ai does. But what's an example, if we keep our marketer to marketer hat on, of how what tactics we're using to work smarter? And is there a shift in, more traditional to sort of newfangled that helps us work smarter?
So I really believe that at the core, working smarter, it really means that you have your data.
It all comes back to data.
It all comes back to that input, process, output, because it is a data that is going to allow you to see what's working, what's not working. It's data that is going to allow you to be able to see, is my digital experience really up to what my customers are expecting? Mm-hmm. Is my content really helping people? So if I was going to think a little bit about trends in marketing, and we spoke about the human connection, I really think that is starting to move towards that business of experience.
Experience, tell me more.
It is experience. It's a business of experience, because you are really, in order to help to solve a problem, as you say, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, email, PR, you're going to be able to tell a story that is connecting. You're going to be able to choose the keywords that allow you to really meet the right person at the right time. I always use examples like, if you're searching for Chinese food, you might be writing a paper on Chinese food. If you're looking for a Chinese restaurant near me, open now, you're really hungry and you really want to eat Chinese food. So if you have that data, even in the B2B space, if you have that data, those keywords would allow you to write the right content that you can now, through technology, deliver to the right person at the right time. And once that you deliver and then they come to the website, you really need to start delivering on that experience, your brand, your creative. Everything really has to be in alignment to be able to, at the end of the day, to be able to facilitate that people find the solution to their problem or challenge. And actually, similar to you, I'm going to read from here that it's 63% of consumers are willing to pay a premium for a simple, easy experience. And 70% are more likely to recommend a company to a friend if they provide a simple experience.
Simple experience. Yeah, make it easy for me, please. I'm begging you. Right, right, right. And for that, I might give you more data.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just think about it. Anytime that you're Googling something and you find that solution and you read and you click and you go to a website that, again, from a branding perspective, from a creative perspective, from a usability perspective, it allows you to find what you were looking for. You're going to be more than willing to sign up for a newsletter or to sign up for the next event. I mean, that's one of the things that we spoke about, when we touch base. We're starting to see that people are looking to participate in physical events,
Yes,
hybrid events, digital events. But now you're starting to have that data. They've given you the permission. You have earned the permission to have a connecting relationship by which you trust each other. Now you're not just asking randomly, hey, nice to meet you. Do you want to give me your email? No, I deliver something of value. You are now feeling comfortable to trusting that most probably my next email is going to have value and that the event is going to have value. And then when you go to your boss and you say, hey, I heard about this technology, I think it's going to really make us, improve our results. There's going to be that trust that is needed, and it's really important, especially both, of course, in B2C, but in B2B, when we need to sell to, I don't know exactly the average number, but a buying group is maybe 7-10 people easily. Having that trust that earns us the right to have a much more humanly connecting experience. It's at the core of what we do as in marketing.
Okay. And then the other T word along with trust, I think you're going to tell me, is test.
Exactly. You are spot on. You're there. I know you're a little bit shy on your data knowledge, but
I am. Right brain, left brain.
You know that it's about, that testing, because we have hypotheses.
Yeah.
And then the more that you get into, testing, the data will tell you what is it that you need to test. I always warn people not to overuse testing to settle internal differences, but really to use testing to see what is it that really helps to deliver the results that, as you asked me at the very beginning, the results that I have to deliver as a CMO, but also the results that I'm looking to deliver by being customer-centric. And you start getting into that flying wheel that is everybody working together, your customers, because eventually your prospects are going to become customers, and then you want to be them advocates of your brand. That starts getting that flying wheel that delivers hyper growth. Okay.
And that data and that testing lets you further personalize everything. Now, are we at a scary point with personalization, do you think? Or is it still, no. Spoken as a data scientist, you'll say no.
But that's a really good question on personalization. I think that we're at a point that it allows you to deliver the right content to the right person at the right time. When there is value,
value exchange. Yeah.
Again, if you go back to Amazon.com, I mean, isn't it really nice that you're looking to buy something and then they tell you, hey, you should also get this.
Right.
It's highly personalized, but again, what a wonderful idea when you bought the thing and you would have missed the cable.
Right.
That level is when personalization is used to deliver an experience that delivers value, that you have the right balance of personalization through data.
Okay, I understand. And if I understand, then I think you're doing great. So what are some of the cool new tactics that you're embracing? I mean, you're such a tech forward and savvy marketer, again, probably more unique on this panel or this summit in particular, with your hands-on experience and developing award-winning platforms. So what's cool that you're loving these days that you're embracing to market People.ai yourself?
a lot of the work that we're doing currently, it's really on combining intent data with engagement data. That
The
allows
intention to buy and those who have already engaged with the brand or product. So you're measuring both.
Yes.
And that sounds like customer journey language to me.
Exactly. Because at the very beginning, and especially for all of our audience that is looking to deliver that, almost like a faster, path to pipeline and to revenue, you tend to have a big bucket of accounts that they have intent. They're showing you that they're in the market. They want something like what you have or something similar. They're willing to learn. So the next step is, again, leveraging technology to really get them to engage with you in the marketing space, because now you can have campaigns that are, very well targeted. Mm-hmm. And then you can really make sure that you're in alignment with sales so that sales can continue the engagement. This way, I stop losing or creating friction between marketing and sales, and you're fully aligned. So that's a lot of what we're doing, now, building all the connections that we need to have, behind the scenes, so that we can really get into that, personalization. There are some great companies out there with, personalization tools that allow you to relatively easily deliver an experience that is, again, personalized, is connecting. So that's where we're spending a lot of our time these days.
And specifically, any other social tools? I mean, is there a place for you on TikTok or what have you? Any specifics that you, or even if not for your own company, what are you loving these days?
Yeah. So currently, we are primarily leveraging, as you mentioned, LinkedIn, Twitter. We were a little bit slow on our, Instagram. We have a product that is very end user, very fun, allows you to really increase the productivity of the data entry. That one, I think you're going to be seeing some really cool stuff coming up soon. Okay. Absolutely. We were a little bit behind there.
I'm on the edge of my seat. So I think, just to shift gears for a second, we know that there is more to a company than its brand and more than its marketing message. But that goes hand in hand with something you're very vocal about, which is diversity. And I know you have some stats to back up your comments about the financial outperformance of diverse companies. Let's get into that area of creating a brand. Tell me more.
Yes, that's a topic that I speak a lot, and I'm happy to share some links after the talk, because as you say, a brand growth, it's at the end of the day your people.
Yeah. Your people.
We are only, it's back to people, and you have to have the best people. And in order to have the best people, you have to have a leadership style. You have to have an executive team with a leadership style that really lets you bring the best people to the table and make sure that there is a table where everybody feels comfortable to share their opinion, no matter how different and unique the opinion can be. So, some of the stats, and I have them here. It says companies in the top quartile for gender diversity on executive teams were 25% more likely to have above average profitability than companies in the next quartile.
25% more profitable.
Yes. Wow. And it was 15% just in 2014, and then it went to 17. Now we're 25. I'm a huge believer, and I think it was McKinsey that came up with a lot of these numbers, that more diverse companies are more innovative, and more innovative companies are more diverse. You're just prioritizing bringing the best people. And I think it was Steve Jobs that is quoted saying that if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go further away, you have to come with your team. You have to do it together.
Great reminder.
And for that, diversity and inclusion, it's extremely important. I mean, if you think about even from a gender perspective, it's only 25% of women take 25% of computer roles. Then in that 25%, Asian women make up a 5%, Black woman 3%, and Hispanic woman a 1%. So I see it as it is my obligation, it is my responsibility to lead teams, to work in companies where we're really making sure that we're pulling up people, we're pushing up people, because that goes back to your initial question.
Yeah,
that's a win-win scenario for everybody. So it's something that is really important and close to my heart.
Yeah, and 2 follow-up questions on that, or a comment and a question. The first is that, an interesting point was made about those who claim that they can't find diverse talent. Well, we now have a global pipeline thanks to tech. Here I go again, all choked up. Sorry, everybody. Is there a mentor that brought you along you'd like to give a shout out to? How did you get into this space?
Yes, there are a couple of people that saw my potential even maybe before I saw it. I started working in the technology industry because of Dan Johnson. He was the CEO of American Financial Systems, and he saw that I could do maybe more than back in the day I thought that I was maybe capable of doing. And then at PTC, Barry Cohen, phenomenal. He really helped me through, making it to that point where you feel comfortable driving the strategy, having a voice. So I'm going to be forever grateful to the people that pulled me up, and only makes it even more of a responsibility for me to make sure that I do the same thing, to the following, generation. But going back to your point on that, when people say that they cannot find diversity, as you say, by now technology, LinkedIn, I mean, it's there is no excuse on not being able to find diverse talent. What tends to happen is that, yes, of course, people tend to bring their friends from the previous company, and you're going to be bringing people like yourself, not on purpose. It's just the people that you like hanging out with.
Yeah, birds of a feather.
Exactly. So I think that's a little bit more the area that we need to break. I like working very closely with my HR and recruitment teams on making sure that, and this we did it at PTC and work extremely well. I mean, if you put an ad recruitment, that has 20 requirements, we know that a woman is going to try to meet the 20. So maybe make them a little bit shorter. If you're going to be interviewing people that are from, other backgrounds, maybe have the first interviewer be somebody that is a little bit more, closer to, to their background, just so to you yourself. There's a couple of things that will help a little bit more people, so that then you can really get the best talent. So, but by now that shouldn't be a reason that there's not enough diverse talent out there.
Yeah. Well, you sort of foist an international mentality upon yourself by going from Mexico to Japan. I'm sure that influenced your leadership skills. What other kinds of experiences do you think prepared you for a leadership role? And what would you advise others who haven't been to Japan?
I will advise them to visit Japan, but I would say that, and I'm sure this applies to you and everybody who's got a career that is developed throughout years, is be comfortable trying new things. Be comfortable being the one that raises a hand to take on the new project. Be comfortable being the one that is accountable for a deliverable. be comfortable trying different things. As you mentioned, I'm an economist, then I went to business development, went into process improvement. Be comfortable that it's never going to be the way that you saw it in the magazine.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of challenges. There's going to be a lot of problems, but be comfortable with all that. Work with people that you trust. Work with people that believe that you can do the next thing. When people ask me about leadership, I really think that I make it a priority for me to really set a clear vision, empower my people, set high expectations so that I can really start developing internal talent.
Oh,
and
yeah.
In order to do that, you have to have people that are very comfortable trying new things and knowing that it's going to be hard. Ask questions. If you're in a new project, be the one that excuse me, can you clarify what is the goal? Do you mind if I put a 30 minutes in your calendar to make sure that we're on the same page?
Right.
It's something that we really appreciate because it allows for a little bit more of a personal, connection. It allows you to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So be comfortable with failing, but have the data so that you can course correct very quickly. Going back to my data.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So I have two questions. One is to kind of go back to your love of data. And you and I talked about how brand marketing and demand or performance marketing are not counterintuitive. Will you tell us a little bit about how you balance those by using data? Because I know you've got a little trick up your sleeve. And then we'll wrap it with one more question after that.
Yes, I think that you're starting to talk about the whole concept of brand to bookings.
Yeah, awareness versus performance.
You can put it right now all together. Again, we actually work with your PR company. Make sure that all the activities are really in alignment to deliver that demand generation, that performance that you needed. Because yes, as a CMO in the C-suite, you are going to be heavily hold accountable to delivering pipeline, to delivering revenue. So it's very important that you put the two together so that you are looking after your brand that is a little bit from a longer term play, but in the short term, you're really connecting it so that you can deliver on the numbers.
I love it. That sums it up beautifully. And I think that's a right brain, left brain answer. So I valued that. So then just to sort of put a finishing touch on it with a future vision, we'll do a crystal ball or even a wish list, if you will. Is there a trend, a technology, an opportunity, something that you personally, aside from how and what you're marketing, that you're really jazzed about? I mean, do you already own Oculus, Rift? What's going on? What do you love?
It's we're going to be participating in a few conferences in May, and it's one of the areas that the team is working on. How do we really transform experiences so that when you come to the conference, you're really looking forward, not just a sales pitch, it's really to almost like viscerally to really experience what is it, that improvement that I was talking about when it comes to that people and the AI. How is it that you can experience? So I saw something really, really cool. I'm not there yet, but it's a technology from, I think it's a company in Holland that allows you now to bring almost like a container, like a truck, and you can have the four walls of that, augmented reality, virtual reality.
Oh, yeah.
That would allow you almost like, again, connecting that B2C, B2B, or what we watch on the TV shows where they're like showing data and then they make decisions, creating that, co-pilot. That I think is going to be super exciting. I'm not there yet, but I'm looking forward to build something of that nature. Absolutely. That would be
Okay.
super. Can you imagine experiencing the brand, the product, the why, the how, all in a way that you can almost feel it?
Yeah. Well, I remember pre-pandemic, and of course, I'll just bring up Japan again. It's so forward thinking, and the virtual malls that that country first came out with a lot of AR, VR technology where you could virtually try things on, but you still had the experience of being in a shopping mall. And I'll leave with my favorite new thing that I think is so important, and I think it encompasses tech and diversity and things and inclusion. And that is, I just read that Snap came out with a filter that enables and facilitates American Sign Language. So yeah, so data and tech, we love it. Mariana Cogan, we love you from People.ai. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure, and I really, really enjoy our conversation.
Thank you. And happy to toss it back to the fabulous Mike D'Elia.